We're going to rewind to Friday, where several WWE cuts were announced. We had Indi Hartwell and Tegan Knox, who have been released from their deals, and then Baron Corbin, whose contract is set to expire, and they're not renewing it. So, three names here. Interestingly enough, we were just talking about Indi Hartwell the other day, that of all this time, she got the call-up when she was hurt, and that seemed to be where she was finally gaining a bit of a buzz for herself at the NXT level. Like, she did have the Dexter Lumis story, but then winning the NXT women's title, she gets hurt and they do the call up. I think that really fumbled her ascent onto the main roster and has largely been one of those women that's just been forgotten for months. Ironically, just given a story attached with Candice LeRae and Nia Jax, and even because SmackDown was taped last week, wrestled on Friday's SmackDown hours after this announcement of her release. Tegan Knox is someone that, I mean, you can't be too surprised by. It feels as though they had no plans for this woman. She had last wrestled on Raw back in April and had not even had a match period since July the 5th. And then you have Baron Corbin, who, interestingly enough, I think had maybe his best run was in NXT alongside Braun Breaker, and then was brought up. And I mean, him and Apollo Crews, like, it never clicked for the few times that we got to see them, and had basically been removed from television, and just feels like they were out of ideas for him too. But I'm curious, any of you, and it's worth noting, Corbin, since his deal is just coming due, once that deal expires, he'll be free to go anywhere. For Hartwell and Knox, these are releases, so they have 90-day non-competes before they can compete. But you're also talking about people that are international talent too, so they're going to have the visa situation to handle as well, being in a non-WWE work environment.
Yeah, those two particular situations, I mean, I feel like we should probably talk about that first and foremost, because it's potentially threatening to just their ways of life and the ways that, you know, the two of them are able to make a living. So hopefully they're able to sort that out, and hopefully, you know, if it's their choice to stick around in North America to continue their careers or do whatever else, I hope they fund that. You know, in terms of these types of stories, we don't hear about them all that often these days. But with the amount of people that they continue to bring up into these systems via NIL or this WWE ID, I mean, something has to give. You know, you can't. I don't think any business should just, as profitable as this company is, I don't think any business should just be there to like be charity, you know, and just like hoard people for the sake of hoarding them, for the sake of their own career developments. If they weren't being used, if they weren't being given opportunities to perform, then I think cuts are need to occur. In the case of Indi Hartwell, I feel bad for, like, you know, kind of harshly criticizing some of her latest performances, but she hasn't really been improving in the time that we've seen her, unfortunately. In ring, when the waters are getting deeper and deeper in terms of athleticism and just like ability and charisma, unfortunately, in the time that she was on TV, and you can argue she wasn't given the right opportunities, but in the times that she has been given an opportunity, I think you can argue that she hasn't really been developing on the way that others may have. Tegan Knox is a bit of a questionable one. I definitely think I would argue more, is somebody that we haven't seen her, you know, get the right opportunities with. The biggest thing attached to her career has been her injuries, and heartbreaking injuries at that, you know, that have derailed her. But at the same time, those injuries are kind of like the things that have made her appealing, you can argue, because people want to see this comeback story. And it's something that just kind of never really materialized on the main roster for whatever reason. So, you know, some wasted potential maybe there. And with Baron Corbin, the person who I think has achieved the most, certainly among this group, but I think you could see a clear shift in maybe the Levesque era and how they might have seen him and his potential versus maybe how a Vince McMahon might have seen a Baron Corbin. You know, any thoughts on any of them yourself?
I think that Baron Corbin, as much as we talk about, you know, talent that have the most, I would say, like, residual fan resentment from the Vince McMahon last number of years. We look at Austin Theory as someone that kind of had to wear that after Vince left. I think a lot of people associate like those really awful years of creative where Baron Corbin was put front and center with the Constable Corbin and just constantly throwing onto all of these big positions. And I think in time, I think there was a turnaround for Baron Corbin of that sentiment among a lot of the audience, whether it was the what was it, Lucky Corbin, Happy Corbin, where he was broke, then he came into money.
All these adjectives.
He's had so many different ones. And I mean, the question is going to be for him is, he's 40 years old. He has only been in this system, and that's 12 years. And it's a tough spot at 40 to suddenly go to, like, let's throw out an AEW, and if not an AEW, like at the independent level, like I am sure this guy could have a great run in a Game Changer or an Impact. Is he going to want to do that? I guess that's the question that he is left with. I'm sure he has had some this guy's been on the main roster for 8 years, almost 9. He's had some significant years and only been in this system. So that's the question attached to him. And will Thomas Peastock be as marketable a name as without Baron Corbin?
That is the bigger question. What name does he go by outside of the WWE system? I wonder. Yeah, with him, I mean, I would have to assume part of the reason why he might be included in this round of cuts is I'm assuming at that level of tenure, he was probably making a pretty good paycheck, within the WWE system. And I don't know if there are any other companies out there if that would be able to match it. I certainly don't see him as a name that AEW might be able to make use of, but maybe there's some creative suggestion out there that is perfect for Baron Corbin in AEW. And outside of that, I think that at this point, like this sort of like Matt Cardona GCW run, Matt Cardona / JBL, like ironic GCW run or indie wrestling run. There's plenty of appeal for it, but even that almost feels like it's a little cliche these days. But that's it.
Let's also give some credit to Matt Cardona that there have been many of these performers that we have made that suggestion of that they could emulate, and how many have? Like Matt Cardona created a lane for himself. He's become he has done very well for himself, but like I just throw out a name, and Nick Nemeth, I would not call him. He has not been a bust since leaving WWE, but he's not that name that is just sweeping the independents and has become this massive star outside of WWE. That's even like in the independent world. Like he's doing fine in Impact. He's a very good performer, but I think it also does shine a light on like Matt Cardona was like timing helped, but this guy also had like a pretty good sense of what was going to work at this level and really attacking it, because you do have to attack the independents, and it's a very big transition when you're only brought up in a WWE system where so many of these aspects of the business are taken care of for you, and like you are your own boss and kind of carving your own plate. Like you are your creative, you are all of those things. The wins and the losses all come down on your plate.
And even that scene is you can argue pretty crowded now, not just forget AEW being too crowded. Even the indies might be a little too crowded for your ex-WWE names, so that, who really is your difference maker? Corbin has never really made a name for himself as this great in-ring worker that you could see getting that sort of demand for indie promotions that might put more of an emphasis on it. But again, like people can.
This guy might have a lucha run in him, Baron Corbin. Maybe CMLL, AAA. Maybe
does he join JBL?
Maybe he's JBL's foreign investment partner, perhaps.
Listen, there are creative opportunities out there for somebody like him. So we'll see if he takes advantage or if he just instead chooses to do something else.
That's it. That's JBL's monetary advisor, Bit Corbin.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
If you like this video, consider joining our Patreon, The Post Wrestling Cafe. Multiple bonus podcasts every week, ad-free shows, and access to our full archive. Otherwise, a like and subscribe is much appreciated. Thank you for watching.